This is a video that we've been told is of a South African soldier in Goma surrendering. But before I continue, I want to say to the families that lost loved ones in Goma, my sincere condolences. To the South African government and the South African people, my sincere condolences. We are verifying if this is what they say it is, but it looks like it is what they say it is. There are lessons to be learned from this Goma situation. Black on black violence never pays. So let's have a look at what it is that is going on with the particular soldier to determine if this video is correct. As you can see, he looks scared, he looks concerned, and he's putting up a white flag to surrender. Imagine what it took for a soldier to put up a white flag against his every instinct to be brave and to fight, but he had to stop because they were surrounded by the enemy, according to what we're hearing from the reports. But my biggest problem is this did not have to happen. Had this problem been solved by a united SADC 25 years ago, would be in a totally different position today. So in mid-1998, the Rwandan army, led by James Kabarebe, the Ugandan army, and their rebel movements decided to invade the DRC. Their intention was to go all the way to Kinshasa to remove the president, put a puppet president, and for the United Nations to divide that country into 5 little separate states that would have been easier for the West to loot. As they got into Kinshasa and were about to go to the presidential palace, Laurent Kabila ran away, went to Zimbabwe, and went to speak to Robert Mugabe, who was then the head of the SADC organ, an organization that has a mutual agreement for the protection of any SADC country by other SADC members if that SADC country has been invaded. When he got there, Robert Mugabe immediately called for a SADC organ meeting in September of 1998. All members attended. Robert Mugabe told them the crisis that was happening in Congo, that Congo had been invaded by foreign forces, and that SADC had to protect Congo as a member of SADC. On hearing this, most SADC countries, particularly South Africa under Nelson Mandela, refused to participate in that particular war. Many people say that Nelson Mandela had been given instructions by the West not to participate in a war that was for their benefit. Other SADC countries also subsequently refused, and only 3 SADC countries were able to go to Congo. These were Zimbabwe, Angola, and Namibia. Immediately, these countries were able to start making plans. The Zimbabwean Air Force, Angolan Air Force carried the soldiers through, and when they reached Kinshasa, trying to land at the airport was occupied by James Kabarebe and his rebel forces together with the Rwandan army. The Ugandan army was in the west, where they were trying to bomb the Inga Dam to take away electricity from the people in Congo to cause despondency and to take over the country. The 2 air forces began to bomb immediately at the airport and also to bomb at Inga. The Zimbabwean Air Force eventually defeated the Rwandans, drove them out of the airport, and they then created their base from which they continued their bombings at Inga, and also the bombings of driving back the Rwandans and the Ugandans back into the eastern part of Congo, Kivu, and Goma. In the east, fighting would continue. Zimbabwe would lose a lot of men together with Angola. But at the end of the day, there was then to be an agreement that was known as the Lusaka Agreement that would then lead to the Sun City Accord. Immediately once there was peace, the Zimbabwean government was put under punitive sanctions by the United States, EU, Canada, Australia, and the United Kingdom for going to this war and disrupting the plans of the Western countries, and they intended to clip its military's wings after it had fought the Boers in Mozambique, and now it was fighting in Congo. They also punished it for taking land. Within that very same period, the leaders of the very same countries that were at war began to talk. Zimbabwe even had to be assisted at some point by the Ugandans in a war that they fought in Sudan and Chad. At this point, the Zimbabwean government was now given the other side of the story. where people like Kagame began to say that when the Berlin Conference took place, it divided their peoples and their tribes in half. And some of the people that are Rwandan were stuck in Congo with Rwandan land. But the problem is that the Congolese government has been ignoring these people that are supposedly Tutsis from Rwanda and treating them like strangers. And they want them to go back home, but they will not give them the land on which they're sitting on, which belongs to them as well. So what is being fought here is a colonial problem. And now the Zimbabwean government has begun to understand this thing. And yes, there's stories about how Kagame is a Western puppet and is working for the West, but can Africans not sit and talk before they decide to go to war? Because black on black violence will never help anyone. And the question is, why